So for years, all we heard from MAGA was the Biden crime family. They said that phrase over and over and over again. And that is why that their messaging is so effective, because they just pick something, and it don't have to be true. It can be Biden crime family, but they will say it over and over and over again until they dupe their own self into believing it. And for years, all we heard was how that Joe Biden and his son Hunter, they were criminal masterminds. And we had to get into that laptop and we had to see all the shady, dirty deals that they were doing. But yet, Donald Trump gets back in office and he's just doing all of his corruption right out in the open. So, of course, we're going to look to the James Comers of the world and say, hey, buddy, you spent all your career talking about the Biden crime family, so why ain't you going to say something about the Trump crime family? And that's kind of how he talks. It's not the worst impression I've got in my bag. But anyway, I'm going to play you this clip of Comer, who basically is saying that as long as you commit your corruption right out in the open, it's okay. So if you're going to rob a bank, Jesse James, just walk in and say, hi, I'm Jesse James. And if you'll do that, it'll be okay. That's what I hear when I hear Comer go to bat for the Trump crime family.
I want to ask you one more thing before you go, as long as I have you, because you're chairman of the Oversight Committee. Right. There's a Reuters report today on the Trump family's crypto ventures. Based on the family's own financial disclosures, Reuters found the Trump organization's income from the first half of this year shot from $51 million to $864 million. About $800 million of that is from crypto. And the story details how most of the buyers are foreign investors and how all this money is going to belong to Trump when he leaves office. Is this something that you're going to look into at all?
Well, it's something that we are, like you, reading about this. We're trying to digest it. The difference between the way the Trump family is operating and the Biden family is they're admitting they're doing this. The president campaigned as a business guy. I'm not defending the policy. I think there needs to be ethics reforms, and I had a bill that Jamie Raskin killed last session because he thought that Kamala Harris was going to win the presidency, but it would have increased the disclosure. So as long as you disclose your income and disclose the sources, I think that's acceptable. If you lie about the income, you say, I never received money from China, and then we subpoena your bank records and there's $5 million from China, I think that's a problem. So, I think it's a legitimate question. A lot of people are concerned, especially since the crypto industry isn't regulated. But if my position now, as long as the president's disclosing this, and they're filling out disclosures and they're answering questions. He answers questions about it. If you ask him about his crypto, he'll say, yes, they've got the best crypto country in the world. Now, do the voters like that? I think that's going to be an issue in the next presidential election. I think it's a fair question. But from an ethics standpoint and from an oversight standpoint, the president is disclosing this income, and that, I think, is the most important part, the transparency.
All right, we're out of time. House Oversight Committee Chairman James Comer, Kentucky. Thank you, sir. The next hour, we're going to hear from a...
Yeah, as long as you admit it, as long as you just disclose what you're doing wrong, then you can go ahead and do it. Folks, he is sitting there tripping all over himself, and deep down, I know I'm making fun of the way he talks, but deep down, underneath all that, he knows he's full of shit. He knows it's wrong, and he has to figure out a way to go to bat. And he also knows that the base just fangirls out over Donald Trump and that he can do no wrong. And that's the whole kicker of this whole thing, is that Donald Trump, in the minds of his most loyal followers, the people who have triple trumped and are still standing there to this day right along beside him, the reason they're there is because they believe in him and they believe that he can do no wrong. So James Comer wouldn't do any good to go on national television and talk about, well, we're going to have to look into this because we're going to have to play fair here. If we went after Biden and Hunter Biden all those years, we're going to have to kind of, be consistent. He can't do that, because if he did, it would completely piss off the base. So he has to sit there and praise Donald Trump to the moon. And, he's a businessman. He's a smart businessman. And that is the one thing that duped everybody in my part of the world and across this country, not just my part of the world, but that's what duped people into voting for Trump the first time, because they thought we should hand it over to a businessman. Now, I got to be honest with you. Back when I was younger, in my early 20s, like I said, I followed politics my whole life, but back when I was in my younger 20s, I would think things like, maybe we should turn it over to someone else. Maybe it should be a businessman, or maybe it should be someone that doesn't have experience in government. But the older I get, the more I realize just how ridiculous that truly does sound. And here I am now wanting someone who has experience, wanting someone who knows how to play the game, and also someone who can work the game to everyone's advantage and not just a few. And when you take a businessman like Donald Trump, someone who has been a corrupt businessman his entire career, that's the thing about Trump. They can call him a businessman all day long, but what they never tell you is he's been a corrupt, crooked businessman this entire time. So when you hand the keys over to somebody like that, they're going to see it as a way to get rich. And then if you hear Don Jr. or Eric or anybody sit and try to defend what they and their dad is doing, they'll come back with, well, we got mistreated. You know, we were treated poorly and they came after us, and so we have to fight back. And then Don Jr. can go around and he can cut all of his shady deals. And as long as he does it out in the open, then they're going to say to their base, well, you know what? Hey, at least they're admitting it. But what James Comer was saying in that previous clip I just showed you is that Donald Trump is a crook, but at least he's admitting it. And he basically said it. That's basically the point that he made. And sat there and went to bat for a criminal. And will continue to do so. It's really hard for me when I see Republicans call out Trump, Marjorie Taylor Greene, and even when you get into the podcast world like Joe Rogan or Rand Paul. I covered the story of him calling out Trump over the strikes in Venezuela. It's always good when you see a Republican breaking from Trump, but folks, they never break completely, and they will always circle the wagons and get behind Donald Trump when it comes time to vote. They'll never really leave him out in the cold. Marjorie Taylor Greene realizes right now that her base is upset with Trump, and she realizes there's going to be life after Trump, and she's trying to save her own ass. But when it comes right down to it, right down to the final moment, I don't trust her for 1 second, and I know that she would line up and get behind Donald Trump in the worst of moments. We see Mitch McConnell do it. James Comer does it, Rand Paul. They'll position themselves to where they can get on television and they can call somebody out just enough to make everybody say, see, Rand Paul sees through it. But then when it really comes time, he's going to line up and get behind his party. And even though they can see what a criminal they have, instead of calling it out and being consistent with it. I mean, Jimmy Carter lost his peanut farm. You know, it's like it's so crazy to me that they just say, oh, yeah, we do it. We got the best crypto in the world. We're investing money. We're taking jets from Qatar. And it's so crazy to me how that Donald Trump can come out and say, oh, you know, Qatar funds Hamas and they fund terrorism, and then can turn around and go, well, I'd be stupid not to take this plane from them, and his followers just roll with it. And Comer knows that. James Comer may sound like Gomer Pyle, but he really does realize, hey, this base, they love this guy. And I really can't defend his criminal actions. So the only thing I know to do is just go on national television and say, hey, at least he's admitting it out loud. And I've seen that so many times in my life, and I'm sure you have too. We've all knew that one person that will say, well, I know his asshole, but at least he admits it. I mean, he don't try to hide it. I mean, at least he goes ahead and says it. And they never could provide a shred of evidence. They had Hunter Biden's laptop for years. They never could provide a shred of evidence to any of the claims that they make. And that's why when Donald Trump tries to sick the DOJ on people to this day, he still can't find the evidence. You can sit back all day long and you can put out tweets. Hey, Pam, go after this one and go after that one. But he doesn't have any evidence. They have nothing to go on. They could sit and say this shit all day long. They have nothing to go on. For years, they accused Joe Biden of A, being an old man that didn't know where he was, and B, being a criminal mastermind. But they could never provide a shred of evidence that he was. Donald Trump's doing it right in front of their face, and well, that's okay, because at least he's saying it out loud. I mean, at least he's disclosing his criminal activities. That's the world we live in. And, you know, I grew up in Kentucky and, you know, lived here in Tennessee. And it's one of those things where I say to myself, man, I really wish that people could do a better job representing us on the world stage. There are great people in Kentucky, okay? There truly are. There are some absolute salt of the earth, good, hardworking people, great Americans in Kentucky. So for those of you that are from other parts of the world, when you see a dumbass like James Comer, just don't paint everybody in Kentucky with that brush, because they're not all that stupid. Don't get me wrong. There's a lot of stupid people that will vote for this crap. But, man, I see people like him on TV and I'm always like, dang, why is that always the hillbilly they let talk, you know? It's always the worst person they could find that they will let describe the tornado. That's James Comer. He's the guy, yeah, I stand out there on the back porch and I heard it come and sounded like a train. Could we just do better? That's all I'm asking.